VIP Access with Anyiko on Africa Loud.
Welcome to VIP Access. This is episode 9 of the second season of my podcast. The YouTube show has been in existence from 2018. And as I promised you, every single week I'm sitting down with an amazing creative. I told you they might not be from Kenya. And this week I'm very happy to be speaking to an individual from South Africa. She's an award-winning storyteller, a singer, songwriter, TV host, a creative entrepreneur. There's actually nothing she can do. I'm convinced. She's going to tell us if there's something she can't do, but I believe there's nothing she cannot do. Pilani Bubu.
Good. Hi. Hello. Good day.
Hello. What's up?
I'm very well. Thank you. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm so happy to see you, for you to be in my country in Kenya, because I follow you on social media and you travel a lot. So when you dropped in Kenya, I saw you doing all the media, all the shows. And so many in like a span of 1 week. I'm like, girl, this girl really works.
It's part of the work. I mean, we have like very limited time in any space at one given time. And, to be in the same space as collaborators or people that you enjoy working with, what you try and do is make sure that you do everything that you can think forward. So we're shooting videos, content, but also finishing songs. We finished a big song yesterday. So you just kind of pack it all in and make the most of the time.
Whoa, fantastic. So I first want to get into Pilani, the person, the individual, your interests.
Yeah.
Because you term your music as jazzy, soul, folk. Some of it is very soulful, some jazzy. Sometimes it's a mix of all of that. And then you're super creative, from being a creative entrepreneur to becoming to being an artist and performing and traveling, and you're on TV. Damn, girl, how do you describe yourself and what you love to do?
Right. Well, fundamentally, the thing that I know is at the core of everything that I do is storytelling. So, I'm kind of pushing the narrative of the indelible storyteller. The stories that I like to tell are stories that help people shift their consciousness, aid some kind of transformation, some form of enlightenment. And I just tie impact stuff also in some of the creative work that I do as an entrepreneur and for other businesses that I help tell stories. In essence, whether it be music, which is my first love, design, which is my second love, it's always storytelling. And I think if there's a beautiful story to be told that can change someone's lives, I'm there, anyone's life, actually.
Yeah. And how do you manage to still do all the things you love to do? Like you talked about your first love, your second love, and now there's a lot of touring. How do you balance all that? Is it that you have a very strong team, or is it that you are literally working 24/7? But how do you make it work?
Hey, I love my sleep. I don't know about 24/7 work. I know there's always this idea that creatives, don't sleep. There are creatives who don't sleep and people enjoy working at night. I actually live a very I think it's kind of same to anyone who works in corporate. I just choose or prioritize which things are first. So I always like to call it my prioritization matrix. So if I look at my little triangle, what's sitting at the bottom, what's sitting at the top. And quite often, some of the things that can help you fund some of the things you're doing can be done in shorter spaces of time and in less time. So people who work jobs, which is what I did 10 years ago, will be spending so much of their time building someone else's dream, but also spending so much time there, even dead time, that they're not as productive with everything else I'd like to do. And I think 10 years ago, quitting my job has given me an abundance of time, but also the opportunity to choose what I do when. So no one day is the same, or no 1 week is the same. And I kind of went into a model where I worked on other jobs, like helping other people 6 months of the year, and then traveling and singing 6 months of the year. And it's really a lot of time management, but also really a value system. So if I feel that my purpose core sits within music first as my first medium, then a lot of the work that I'm doing or how I spend my time is on music. Though it's a very, very funny matrix in terms of financials, because music doesn't always pay off as rapidly as another time spent on something else. But it's also quite empowering to have the opportunity to expand yourself as a creative and diversify in order to enable like your first love. So I have other things that I do that enable my first love and allows me to kind of balance out my joy, so to speak. Yeah.
Oh my God, such a beautiful way that you've explained how you make it work. And you speak about the music not always paying off as other things would. So where would you say your music is paying off the most? Because you tour a lot. Do you actually make a lot of money touring, or is it just like the experience for you as well?
There's different kinds of tours. So yes, music, I mean, the creation process, like recording an album and making music videos is an exorbitant sort of task financially. But the live music space is the dominant paying space for us. Because streaming, I mean, the revenues are really, really low. And also running media tours, it may seem to an artist at a time to pay your PR person and your radio plugger a lot of money that you don't have isn't fruitful, but actually if you appear on television and you appear on radio stations and your music gets on rotation,
in the long end,
it does come back
it does.
On a rolling period of 2 years.
Yes.
And then it's also about being very strategic about releasing your projects. It took me a while to learn because I'm a DIY artist. I'm self-managed, self-published, basically the label and everything. So I'm the funder and the artist, in kind of doing everything. And it takes time, but you got to go trial and error. So you got to see where you need to roll out your plans. So essentially, whatever you tour, when you release a project, that's the project that you're touring. And quite often we create that haphazard feeling when we're releasing. So a repertoire of work and an album is essential. So I would encourage artists not to take too long to create a body of work that is conceptual and sound, because then people can figure out what it is you're selling. It's like branding 101.
Yes.
It helps, even if your name is the brand, your projects become these sub-brands and products that people can latch onto. So I think what I've done over the last 10 years is really trying to create clear sound concepts and products that then are tourable. That's what you tour. So I do kind of enjoy the idea of touring. Touring does pay in some instances when the shows are coming out of something that's solid, but there's also promo tours that are just value driven. Like the one we're doing now is literally a promo tour, and any revenue that we're getting in, we're putting into shooting videos and content. So that it's a give and a take. A lot of it is sacrifice, but there's also a lot of reward.
And where did you meet AfroNautiq, who's Kenyan?
Yeah.
You've collaborated with him. You've done some shows with him already. I saw you guys doing interviews because I met him at their studio a long time ago. They used to be part of the producers of Coke Studio. So I know him as a really amazing creative, but then we don't see him like doing songs like that. So it's been interesting to see you take him out like that.
Yeah. Well, I met Sean through his management, which is Jerry Kolisa, which is a South African duo, Nigelo and Tash. And the idea was, during lockdown, they were working on models to cross-pollinate, like they're building a producer-artist image for Sean. So it was really about him collaborating with artists like just outside of Kenya as well, and also coming forward as a producer and as an artist.
Yes.
And so we collaborated on a song called As We Lay, and we hadn't even met in person. So literally, Nigelo, or the team from Jerry Kolisa, sent me the track.
Yeah.
And I wrote on it and then sent it back, and then, so if he liked it, and then we met on the phone. And did this entire thing and released the song without even meeting. And then a year ago, I came to Kenya to promote what was the full body of work for me called Lockdown Love Story, which also Samuel Sachangi, who's was or is part of EA Wave, produced while he was in Cape Town. And
he produced the entire...
Lockdown Love Story,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so it's very much a Kenya meets South Africa project.
Nice.
And so then Sean and I got into studio like in person for the first time, and that expanded our work. We wrote more and more songs. There just seems to be a lot of chemistry between us. So we're going to roll out a series of singles. We had another one, Ufuna Bani, that was featured on a Netflix series last year, 2022. Guys, these years are rolling into themselves.
Yeah,
I can't keep up with the numbers. Log into 2023, Pilani. So last year, 2022. And so it's been a very interesting idea, kind of bridging these two worlds of saying, well, the production work and any live instrumentals laid on a track by a producer artist is equally that brand should also come forward. And it's been a beautiful journey, also performing live and expressing some of those elements. And for me, it meant kind of mixing the live music space with a bit of electronics, which has been really beautiful. Yeah.
What's the feedback, especially from your fans, everywhere you go, or in Kenya particularly when you perform? Some of them might already know you, some of them might not know you, but I feel like your music is very, it's made for the live performance as well. Like when I hear the record on Apple Music, I'm like, I want to see her on stage. Yeah. So it's not all the music that you listen to is well palatable on stage, but I feel like you are such a performance artist?
I'm definitely a live music person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been over years. I've always recorded live records. Essentially, all the instruments are live. Never really worked with electronics, but also turning some electronic productions into live has been really interesting and always works better. I think the live music space is always going to feel best for me, and music grows on you. When you write a song, that's one particular moment, but music evolves and you change the way you phrase something. Things change in the music. You hear something new, and because I travel and work with local artists around the world, there's always new bands that I'm working with that have a different interpretation or feel something else in the music that might change the mood in the music as well, or maybe enhance some of the moods in the music. And so, yeah, I definitely do think that it's even better live. And yeah, so I definitely do enjoy performing live, and it's definitely a top quality for me.
Cool. I saw an interview and you mentioned that you have a twin sister.
I do.
What's your twin sister like? Who is she? What does she do?
Yeah. Well, actually, she's been living in Kenya for the last year. She's just moved back to South Africa.
What?
I know. Maybe
There's
people have been seeing her around
Kenyan connection with Pilani.
Yeah.
What?
So when I was here last year, she kind of like moved here. She was seconded here. She works for Coca-Cola. So she's working in the region here to kind of transform some of the channels and the distribution within the space.
Wow.
But she's gone back to South Africa now.
And she will come back again?
She loves this place. I really hope she can, but not at the moment. There's no plans. So we'll see how she works it out. So she's also kind of a marketeer, but also she sings. She can sing. We sing together. We hope that one day we can figure out doing a project together.
You guys are such high achievers. And I think I saw you also kind of gave credit to your, parents, how they brought you up, like giving you the courage to do what you want to do. Yeah. How is it now with the parents? Are they very proud to see you do you?
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't changed. The energy of exploration and the energy of kind of becoming whoever you wish to be, a free space is always going to be maintained. And it was always like that when we were young. I lost my father in 2021, January,
sorry about
the COVID
that.
period. I mean, he's definitely been the free spirit in the two relationships. My mom is an enabling, empowering, generous person, figuring out the finances. My dad is definitely the creative who had the latent talent. And he's always been very proud, a very vocal, proud father. And I think that energy always will live with you wherever you go. You'll always feel that. Whatever novelty or new thing that you're exploring, your parents are riding that wave with you. Do you know what I mean? In openness. So there's definitely still that. In our family, you can chop and change, decide and be whoever you want to be. But I think the fundamental thing as you grow up, and I'm not going to mention my age, is our parents did such a good job raising us and investing in the things that they needed to, that they empowered us. We were out of their pockets at 22.
Whoa.
Do you know? So really the energy that we need from them now, or continued energy, is just that love and that pride, and to know that you've got them, So it's really mere presence, not just physically and in spirit. And that presence is strong and it goes with you in a sense.
Yes.
So, it's not like they're there to be the cushion, even though it still is a cushion.
Yes.
But they empowered us quite early that we were free from their pockets and were free to explore and do things without them. They were also quite explorative, entrepreneurs who kept jobs but had 2 businesses and kept exploring. So, yeah, they're really inspiring.
Cool. And also wanted to talk about your TV show, which has been very successful. You've had 10 seasons. And I wanted to ask, what's next for your interior design show? What are the fans asking for,
Man, the Design For You fans love Design For You. I mean, quite often, and I feel like the channel doesn't want to, give them a wrap. I'm like, guys, let's package this thing and be like 10 seasons done. So Design For You came out of the space that people really wanted to learn interior design. It was the sort of DIY space, giving people the tools and the fundamentals of design. And I think as a market, people do evolve with you. So I feel that Design For You as a fundamentals show, like here are the basics of design. These are the things you need to be looking for. Let's inspire you. I think we've moved past that. I think we're in a phase where we, or at least for myself, using that expert opinion for more elevated ideas, and also just, sharing a little bit more of an opinion rather than showcasing, because I think we've really grown the design market in South Africa and showcased so many designers who've grown their careers, in a sense.
Fantastic.
And now it's just to say, what do we Africans, the show broadcasts in 10 countries, I think, across the continent, where are we now? Where should design go? structure and allow ourselves to have an opinion about that, which has sort of been a promise, we'll be able to kind of like format a new show and roll with that.
And when do you even shoot?
It's seasonal. So we'll shoot back to back.
Okay.
Yeah, so it won't be...
So you always like block a period
of time.
Okay, fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. And, for those creatives who are listening or watching, what would you advise them, maybe 5 tips to staying on your path? Because I feel like as a creative and working with other creatives, because I'm a music publicist and I work with various artists, sometimes artists feel like, I can't be this and this and this, but you actually can if you manage your time properly, if you have a proper value system that you spoke about. Thank you for that. But you're one creative who seems to be dabbling in everything you love to do and you still manage to sleep at night. So can you give the creatives watching like some tips to staying on their path and kind of elevating their careers in whatever level where they are?
Sure. Man, I think that the first thing that we can talk to, as mentioned, is the boxes. I think, yes, there is a form of categorization you do need to have in order to prioritize so that you don't lose yourself in the things that are like least on your list. So like top of the list, this is how much time I'm going to spend on something, bottom of my list is that. But I think what I found in watching other people struggle with like their artistry is going, well, I'm just a singer and I just need to focus on these things. And if you break out of that box and you allow yourself to do more, you can actually do more for yourself. And I think that kind of DIY culture as artists is going to be dominant because a lot of the time we are very unhappy because we are conceptual and very specific. I tend to be very unhappy with what people design for me or like create. So I do my own posters, my own CD artwork. I conceptualize like almost everything. And it is to trust that sense of intuition. So I'm going to move into number 2, which is to protect your own creativity. So the first one, break out of the box, because then you're not freeing yourself to be fully creative because creativity has no bounds. Like we are all intermingling and cross-pollinating. Number 2, just trust yourself and the ideas that you have. And I think one of the trip-ups that you'd experience earlier on in life is feeling that the industry owes you something. So there's like these roles that must be filled. There must be a manager, and there must be this, and there must be the label. And we see it in big industry, but in Africa, we have very infant industries in a sense. So the most developed entertainment industry is America. So if we watch all these movies and we see things happening in a particular way, we have to have a clear sense as to where we are in our industry, in your city and in your country, and to know that actually we're still part of the teaching and part of the growing.
Yeah.
So which means we're going to do quite a lot for ourselves. So in essence, 2, protect your own creative work, or at least your creative ideas, by realizing that you're at the forefront and you should be leading the pack. So actually you brief in to service providers and all these stakeholders what you would like and take control of your creativity. Number 3, watch out for moments of resentment. So coming out of number 2, we resent the industry when things don't work out for us, but what we don't realize is what is not in place in the industry to help us. So some of those things could be not enough live music spaces, not enough media, mass media, kind of supporting local artists, which then creates an air of competition, which then at a particular point in time, there can only be so many artists held at that kind of top 20 list, which then becomes the same list that gets churned out at festivals. On a rolling period of 10 to 20 years, it can happen. So we got to understand that, that's not because the industry is competitive. It is because the climate isn't right for so many artists to exist at a particular level in media. So we then have to look at how do we then create opportunities for ourselves? How do we create venue spaces for ourselves? How do we build an audience for ourselves? And these days, it's all about community management. So anyway, you need to grow and build an audience, build your audience, And so that resentment can really stumble you. It's very paralyzing because you kind of like stop and then you're filled with this like, oh man, things are not working out. But really, it's, the power, if you see what's wrong, is in your hands to aid the industry along. Number 4 for me would be, it's as an artist, we want to be doing only that which we love. So we just want to be doing that.
Yeah.
And I would say that stagnation happens when we don't realize, okay, what else? So for me, I feel that a lot of my audiences have been built and inspired by people I meet in other spaces. So if I'm working on a TV show or a content piece for a brand or another client, it's all just people. Really, life is and everything that we do, that we share in life, is all about the people. So maybe number 4 is about the people. Really seeing the people for what they are. I know fanship and like all these things become a whole thing, but then we start to dissociate with people.
Yeah.
So they are fans, and then there is me, and then we
Yes.
start to like really feed the ego. And I think that everything that's worked for me in traveling, touring, collaborating, finding myself in new spaces has been about people, the intersections I've had with people, and how I've grown those relationships and where they've taken me. So I just want to encourage artists to ride the idea that they're first human, and they're here having a human story, and it's the people that actually let their lives flow into the different opportunities that they have. And number 5, what's number 5? I don't know. Okay, let me go with my intuition on this one. I'm probably just going to roll my mouth and see if I find an idea. We love 5 tips. My last tip, I guess, is just maybe empowering any artist with the idea that, wow, I have the word collaboration in my mind. And it's an interesting thing because we don't always find it. I find Kenyans are still very heavily like grounded when it comes to the industry and collaborating. In South Africa, it's kind of a blessing and a curse that we have such evolved industry.
Yes.
You know, that we have such infrastructure. And it means that everything that we do is so commercialized and so corporatized that it becomes expensive. Yeah. And then we don't know how to move. So here, videographers, filmmakers, stylists, people are still sort of collaborating at a value that is far lower than a corporate value. In South Africa, it's hard. It's still at corporate value. So if I'm looking for a DOP or a filmmaker, they can love the work, but then they're not always so moved first by the work and the intersection as people. They moved more by, okay, it's a job and I can build a portfolio, but still the rates are quite high. And so I think as Africans, first, and as creatives in Africa collaborating, we really need to find a balance between the value systems that we're sharing and, you know, collaborate between suites. You know, so and quite times I'll often go back to the same people. So I work with illustrators in Ghana, and I'll go back to the same people to do the same thing. And I flew in a friend of mine who's a DOP in Ghana to spend New Year's with me. We shot like 7 videos. Do you know? And it's because of the intersection we're having as artists and as creatives that we respect each other's work. You know, that would have cost me $500,000, you know, in South Africa. But it just, that exchange that we have about creating beautiful work and respecting each other's music, do you know? It's just this exchange. So I think collaboration can really get us very far. If you can see who those people are in your life that value your work, that you can value their work, and you can enhance what they are doing, do it. So don't feel alone. Just look around for your collaborators. They're right there, right under your nose. Sometimes some people walk into your life for a very short period of time, and it's just your openness to how they want to intersect with your work and believe in like what shines out of you and what you're helping shine out of them. And then together you can kind of like build bigger light, do you know, and showcase the work a lot better.
Okay.
That's a mouthful.
Those are 10 tips in 5.
You're going to need to put like straps and headlines there.
Marketing, PR, everything 101, artists, relations, everything. Thank you so much, Pilani. I'm going to ask you a few quick fire questions before we finish. So where did you have the best performance ever?
Oh my God. Sure. I think actually, yeah, my best performance ever at this point, because obviously there's always a best performance until the next best one comes. At the end of 2021, September, after we waited through lockdown to do this, I did a festival in France called Musique Matisse. It's in Angoulême. It's been around since 1976. And the whole idea, we were part of this kind of Africa 2020, so it was supposed to happen in 2020. But I was one of the artists that came from Africa. And I didn't come with my band or any band that I'd elected. So I performed with a band that was half Nigerian, half Ghanaian. And we were in quarantine for like 10 days. So we had like 3 or 4 rehearsals where they went through my music. But because these guys loved South African music so much, they sang in harmony to my songs. All 5 of them sang in harmony to my... It was like Ladysmith Black Mambazo, plus they played their instruments.
Whoa!
And I think it was one of the most... It was like one of the best examples of how it can be if all the harmonies were in and all the instruments were in live, and we were on the big main stage in the afternoon at sunset, you know, and it just felt like so depictive of what I would have wanted. And it was like on the bill with Angelique Kidjo, who performed right after me, and it just was such a good expression of South African music and what I would like. I mean, a 10-piece band would be great, but to have a 5-piece band plus voices, 5 voices, was incredible. So I think that was definitely my best performance, like best feeling of a live performance yet.
Best food?
Hey! What is my best food? Man, I think Vietnamese food is the best. The best food I've ever had was in Vietnam, and it's still right at the top of my list. The Vietnamese street food, fresh, crisp, amazing. It's like a mix of the barbecue and a mix of like the veg and the grills or stir fries or light, fresh, crispy vegetables, you know?
Best album and why?
Ever in life that I've ever enjoyed.
Your albums, yes.
Wow, man.
Because we haven't talked much about your music and, you know.
Right. So, you know, obviously we're all growing through time. So my first EP was like a demo EP to me. Second album was really an expression of my transition into like my creative world and my light. And then Folklore Chapter 1 was very nerve-wracking because it was founded off the inspiration of traditional folk music. So somewhere in there are like these traditional folk covers and redoing like songs like Gongo Twane and feeling like it could go really bad or it could go really good. So I think surprisingly, Folklore Chapter 1, which won the South African Music Award for Best African Adult Contemporary Album, surprised me. And maybe that the nerves that I was having about it and what I poured in to give it that essence has been like one of the best experiences of my life, because I really didn't come in like confident about like the reception, but it's a really good risk and with good cause, because out of that I founded a festival called Folklore Festival. I realized that the conversation was bigger than me. What I was trying to do had to be done by all of us in preserving our culture and our heritage. You know, and it's a series of albums that are going to be coming out soon. So Folklore Chapter 2 comes out in September. And it just spitballed something bigger than me, telling a personal but a spiritual, an African story over time. So there's going to be 5 albums coming out of that project. So it's definitely got to be, I guess, best album, because Fantastic. It just has so many fruits out of it.
Nice. And best city and why?
New Orleans. My favorite city in the whole wide world has been New Orleans. I think there are other cities coming up that I've experienced that are like competing with it, but there was a very spiritual African magic. African magic sounds like juju. A very African, was the most African city in America. And also the most musical city, like 200 venues around the city, birthplace of jazz. There's definitely something amazing there in the live music space and the musicians there and the energy that they exude. And also just the feeling of knowing that so many Africans through slavery converged at a place like Congo Square. And it was a mix of gospel and traditional music and all of this that kind of founded this music, you know? And it was being able to trace some of these musical influences that we so love and bringing them back home from one city. And it was also the city where when I quit my job, say 2011, and recorded my first EP, that's the first place that I went, really? 5 days after finishing and printing my first record. And I was supposed to be there like 5 days. I stayed 3 months because I had these intersections with some musical greats who invited me on stage and performed in like really beautiful platforms. And it was kind of like God giving me a nod saying, you're in the right place. This is what you should be doing, and like keep doing it. And it just like sealed that deal with myself and music.
Fantastic. And what's the best advice you've ever been given? Probably a lot, but which one is that one that you always remember and comes back to your mind? Like,
yeah. When I quit my job 10 years ago, someone said to me, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. And it fueled the kind of energy that allowed me to persevere and not give up, but also to realize that it's going to be a list of variables that people will not see as you strive and work and improve and grow, that one day will look like it happened overnight, but actually it's been the work. And so it's given me the grace that I've given myself to allow myself not to think that the breakthrough is going to happen because I thought that song was so amazing. Or that, this could be it, and not stop chasing the breakthrough and stop chasing, like that fame, but rather just like working on yourself. And if you are committed to this journey then, and it's lifelong, and it's true and it's honest, and your intentions are good, that it will come back to you, and that it will feel like it was overnight. but actually it was a lot of work put in, and not being afraid to put in that work. Yeah.
Are you happy with where your career is at this very moment in time, and where do you want to maybe expand? I think you spoke about an upcoming album.
Yeah.
You spoke about several tours, several residencies you're working on. What else do you intend to do in the rest of the year? Because you started on such a high note.
Yeah. In my inner world, which is mostly the creative work that I put out, my creative work is on steroids. Like, I have to slow myself down. So Sean and I are releasing an EP. Folklore Chapter 2 is done. I have an album, That Box, that I've finished, that I've been writing for 6 years, that I don't know when to release. And it's just going to be about, I want to allow this year to be a deeper year, like to kind of like slow down and not fear death. And just allow myself to go, I have time to release all these things. So the year is going to be, well, this is the beginning of it. Kenya's been a part of like kind of highlighting a few singles and prepping the work for the EP with Sean and myself, which is obviously completely different. It's a really electronic project. And then Folklore Chapter 2, we're releasing in Europe in September.
Fantastic.
So there'll be a build-up of singles and music videos that we're going to release before that, so that we don't keep people waiting for too long. I know it's going to sound like a lot, but it's going to be about storytelling. I'm going to challenge myself to make sure that I can handhold everyone through the journey of these expressions and these stories, you know? Like, I'm the kind of person that can read 3 books at the same time, so I'm hoping other people can do that too. So I mean, like, okay, there's a series of books coming out, guys. So there's like Inner World with myself and Sean. There's Folklore Chapter 2.
Did you say you read 3 books at the same time?
Yeah, sometimes.
Because I read 2 at the same time.
Yeah, sometimes there's
not
like that
3.
self-help thing
Yeah.
that you're like, okay, I got to put this down now because my head is going to explode. And then you need to read something that's like novel-like, that flows very easy, you know? And then maybe that kind of, you get to a part where you're like, this writer's not hurrying up. You know, it just happens, you know?
Yeah.
So then you keep sort of 3 books open around your pedestal, you know? But yeah, so there's a lot of things coming up, lots of residencies, lots of touring. And yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm not going to say that because in 2020 we said it was going to be a magical year, and then things happened.
Yeah.
But we're going to flow into it, and we're going to allow all the things that, we want to happen to align themselves.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. You are so, so amazing. Like, it's been such an amazing opportunity for me to sit down here with you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Jess, my friend, your friend, part of your
Shout
management.
out.
He made this happen. If it wasn't for Jess, I don't know how I was going to get hold of this lady who's super busy. So thank you so much. I wish you well in your travels, in your releases, in your every endeavor you put your hand to. I think it's been very inspiring for me to sit down with a creative who strives to thrive in everything she puts her hand into with so much grace. And it's just so inspiring to see such an amazing, powerful, and inspiring lady and woman.
Asante.
Big up. Asante sana.
Asante sana.
If you want to say anything to your Kenyan fans and all the other fans from around the world who might be listening or watching, what would you like to tell them?
Man, I think I should say Asante Sana, because Nairobi, second to Paris after Johannesburg, is one of my top cities on my streams. So please keep streaming the music, keep following the journey. I'm absolutely in love with Kenyan creatives, so you'll definitely see more from me. And and catch any live shows if you can. It's transcendental, it's magical, and it's just a shared space that we can all, enjoy. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Pilani Bubu in all her grace and splendor. Thank you so much. And next week, come again, VIP Access will have another amazing artist from somewhere around Africa.
VIP Access with Anyiko on Africa Loud.